She's known as the Princess of Pop. Her fiery dances, unusual timbre of voice, and real shows on stage attracted millions of fans around the world. Miss Britney Spears is a real star of the 2000s and America's favorite, who hid a real, personal tragedy behind her bright smile. What really happened between her and Justin Timberlake? Why did she shave her head? Why did she have to be under the conservatorship of her father for 13 years? And how did the battle for her own independence end? You'll learn about this and much more from this video. You are on the Enco Stories channel. Sit down comfortably, get some snacks, and let's get started. I was a little girl with big dreams. I wanted to be a star like Madonna, Dolly Parton, or Whitney Houston. I had simpler dreams too, dreams that seemed even harder to achieve and that felt too ambitious to say out loud. I want my dad to stop drinking. I want my mom to stop yelling. I want everyone to be okay. Britney Jean Spears was born on December 2nd, 1981, in Macomb, Mississippi, the second child of Jamie Parnell Spears and Lynn Irene Bridges. The couple already had an older son, Brian James, and later had another daughter, Jamie Lynn. Britney's father and mother's families were very different from each other, and their upbringing greatly influenced the relationships in the Spears family. James's father and Britney's grandfather, June, was a real tyrant. He had 10 children from 3 women, 2 of whom, including Britney's grandmother, Emma Jean, were sent to a psychiatric hospital. Emma, who lost her child 3 days after birth, could not bear this loss and shot herself on his grave on his 8th birthday. James was 13 at the time. He was already under constant pressure from his father, who demanded perfectionism from his son in everything, so he transferred this trauma to his family. I know that trauma is part of why my father was how he was with my siblings and me. Why, for him, nothing was ever good enough. My father pushed my brother to excel in sports. He drank until he couldn't think anymore. When he was drunk, he was extremely mean. Things were much better with her mother's family. Lynn's mother, Lily Portell, was British, and her father was from Malta, the island in the Mediterranean Sea. Her uncle was a bookbinder. The whole family played musical instruments and sang. Perhaps that is why Britney showed a talent for singing and the ability to hold her own on stage at an early age. The Bridges family lived comfortably in Louisiana, where Lily was taken from London by her husband. Britney's parents met at a basketball game where James was a star player. And it's no wonder, because June made him score another 100 goals after every practice before he could enter the house. After the wedding, the Spears settled in a small house in Kentwood. Lynn was no longer supported by her family, so the newlyweds were very poor. In 1977, their eldest son, Brian, was born. Having moved out of their first small house, they bought a small 3-bedroom ranch and began working. Lynn as a teacher and her husband as a welder at an oil refinery. But the couple's life did not work out. James began to drink and disappear for several days, sometimes raising his hand at his wife. She filed for divorce, but Spears managed to dissuade her from the step. Britney calls herself a child to strengthen the marriage. Later, James changed jobs and got into the construction business. And then, after a lot of effort, he opened a gym called Total Fitness, so the family stopped being poor. As a child, Britney spent a lot of time with her great-grandmother. Quote, "Lexi and I were very close," the star recalled. "My most vivid and joyful memories of being a little girl are of times spent with her. We'd have sleepovers, just the two of us. At night, we'd go through her makeup cabinet. In the morning, she would make a huge breakfast. Her best friend, who lived next door, would come over to visit, and we'd listen to slow 1950s ballads from Lexi's record collection. But one day, they had an incident when Lexi crashed into another car and went into a ditch. Lynn was very scared for her daughter, and from then on, Britney was forbidden to get into the car with her great-grandmother or spend the night with her. In addition to spending time with Lexi, Britney liked to hide in closets, which later became a family joke. However, she did it not to escape from her family, but quite the opposite. Hiding was one way to get attention. I also loved singing and dancing. I sang in the choir of our church, and I took dance classes 3 nights a week and on Saturdays. Gymnastics was later added to dancing and singing, but for these classes, the girl had to be taken in another city an hour away. In a career guidance class in elementary school, Britney said she wanted to become a lawyer, but neighbors and teachers began to convince her that she was born for Broadway, and eventually Britney accepted her identity as a little pop star. "I was in my own world. I found out what I was supposed to do at an early age," the singer said. She attended her first dance rehearsal at the age of 3, and at 4, she sang her first solo, "What Child Is This?" for a Christmas program at her mother's kindergarten. "I wanted to hide, but I also wanted to be seen. Both things could be true. The singer explained, quote, "Crouched in the cool darkness of a cabinet, I felt so small I could disappear, but with everyone's eyes on me, I became someone else. Someone who could command a room. In white tights, belting out a song, I felt like anything was possible." When Britney was 4 years old, her brother Brian had an accident on an ATV. He received an endless number of fractures and spent many days in the hospital. This brought the brother and sister closer together, and little Spears slept in the same room with her brother until the 6th grade. But the relationship with her father, on the contrary, began to deteriorate. James started drinking again and left home for several days. Because of this, the parents were constantly quarreling and their children had to witness this. The elder Spears became more and more demanding of Britney, and especially of Brian, and it was sometimes unbearable to be in such a family. Britney herself was small and quiet at that time, but when she sang, she was uplifted, and gymnastics classes helped her move well. At the age of 5, she took part in a local dance competition. She performed a dance number in a top hat and with a stick in her hand and won. Then her mother began taking her to competitions throughout the region. Britney climbed the talent ladder and won a regional competition in Baton Rouge. Very quickly, her parents realized that their daughter was worth something more than winning prizes in school gyms. When they saw an ad in the newspaper for an open audition for the new Mickey Mouse Club, they went there without hesitation. The trip to Atlanta took more than 8 hours. There were more than 2,000 children there, and Britney had to stand out from them, including the fact that the set included children 10 years old and older, and little Spears was only 8, although she said she was 9.
And where are you from?
Kentwood, Louisiana.
Louisiana?
Yep.
How far away is that?
About 8 hours.
And you drove here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Are you excited?
Yes.
That year, she was not yet over her age, but she was already noticed and offered to find an agent and work in New York. But the Spears did not leave there immediately. Instead, Britney worked as a waitress in a seafood restaurant for 6 months to get out of financial difficulties. However, Lynn didn't forget about New York and sent videos of her daughter singing to talent agent Nancy Carlson. She invited them to her office, where Britney sang live and signed a contract with the agency. Back in Louisiana, Britney had a little sister, Jamie Lynn, whom she treated like a doll, but she still didn't stop fighting for attention in the family. At the age of 10, Britney was invited to the competition Star Search. She passed the first round but lost first place in the second round to Marty Thomas, who later also became a professional singer. After performing the song Love Can Build a Bridge, the host Ed McMahon asked the girl an awkward question, but she, as a future star, did not hesitate to respond in the same manner.
I noticed last week you had the most adorable, pretty eyes. Do you have a boyfriend?
No, sir.
Why not?
They're mean.
Boyfriends? You mean all boys are mean? I'm not mean. How about me?
Well, it depends.
I get that a lot. Now, you grew up on a farm in Missouri.
There was no time for depression after losing the competition, as she and her mother continued to fly to New York and back. The intensity of the little girl's work in the big city was exciting, but at the same time, frightening. Spears was offered a job, a role in the second cast of the off-Broadway musical Ruthless. There, she played a young sociopath star named Tina Denmark. It was a satirical production about a girl who wanted fame and her willingness to do anything for success. Tina's first song was called Born to Entertain. It was close to the truth about Britney herself. And also in the second cast was the young actress Natalie Portman. While Britney was on the show, they rented a small apartment for her, her mother, and baby Jamie Lynn. And Spears trained nearby at the Broadway Dance Center, but she spent most of her time at the Players Theater in the city's business district, where she performed and rehearsed. It was a grueling schedule. There was no time to be a regular kid or really make friends because I had to work nearly every day. On Saturdays, there were 2 shows. In addition, the girl did not like performing in the second cast. She had to sit in the theater every night until midnight, in case the main performer of the role had to be replaced. A few months later, she did leave, and Britney got the main role, but she was completely exhausted. New Year's holidays were approaching, and she desperately wanted to go home, but she learned that, most likely, she would be performing on Christmas. With tears in her eyes, she begged her mother to go back to Louisiana, and Lynn agreed. So Britney left the show and went home. The schedule of New York City theater was just too rough on me at that age. One good thing did come out of it, though. I learned how to sing in a theater with small acoustics. The singer talked about this experience. With this experience behind her, Britney auditioned again for the Mickey Mouse Club. While waiting for the results, she lived in Kentwood, attended Parkland Academy, and became a point guard in basketball. Spears was short for an 11-year-old, but she was a good passer. After a second audition for the Mickey Mouse Club, Britney finally got her long-awaited contract. Participating in the show became a kind of training camp in the entertainment industry. Grueling dance rehearsals, singing and acting lessons, time in the recording studio, and school during breaks. There, Britney shared a dressing room with another future star, Christina Aguilera, and quickly became friends with a boy named Justin Timberlake. Filming took place at Disney World theme park in Orlando, with Britney's mother and 2-year-old Jamie Lynn traveling with her. When the cast had breaks during the day, they would ride the roller coasters and have fun. It was honestly a kid's dream. Unbelievably fun, particularly for a kid like me. But it was also exceptionally hard work. We'd run choreography 30 times a day, trying to get every step perfect, Starr recalled. During filming, Spears was informed of Britney's grandmother's death. Due to financial difficulties, they could not afford to fly home for the funeral, but Justin's mother, Lynn Harless, lent them money for the tickets. The singer later said that the children and parents on the show truly became one family. The Mickey Mouse Club was a terrific experience. It got my feet wet in TV. Performing on that show ignited me. From then on, I knew I wanted to do what I did there: singing and dancing. After the show closed, the other children went to conquer Los Angeles and New York, and Britney decided to return to Louisiana and continue her normal teenage life. To have some fun, she and her mother went to the neighboring state of Mississippi, where they relaxed on the beach and drank alcoholic cocktails. Britney was in 8th grade at the time and considered these trips the best time spent with her mother and sister. Quote, "By 13, I was drinking with my mom and smoking with my friends. I had my first cigarette at my one bad friend's house," the singer recalled. Basically, she admitted that she was not at all like the screen image of an innocent girl that the producers and her team tried to impose on her when she became a pop star. At heart, she's always been a rebel who grew up early. Her first experience of intimate relationships took place in the 9th grade with one of her brother's friends. The guy was 17. With him, the girl began to skip school. Brian found out about this and told their parents. As punishment, Britney had to walk around the neighborhood with a basket and collect garbage. Her older brother followed her and took pictures of his rebelled sister in tears, making the streets cleaner. Britney liked the simple teenage life with its ups and downs, but she really missed performing. Her mother kept in touch with a lawyer she met during her daughter's auditions and sent him videos of Britney singing, and he advised them to make a demo. He had a song called Today that Toni Braxton had recorded for her second album, but which ultimately did not make it to the album. Spears learned it, then recorded it in a studio in New Orleans. This recording became her calling card at auditions. Around this time, Justin Timberlake joined the new boy band, NSYNC. Bands were all the rage at the time, but Lynn insisted that her daughter pursue a solo career. I had tried to go back to being an ordinary teenager, but it hadn't worked. I still wanted something more. Britney's demo tape, which she recorded in New Orleans, was heard by top managers in New York, and they wanted to meet the girl. So she put on her high heels and a cool short dress and went to New York. There, she met Clive Calder, a record company executive and founder of Jive Records. He introduced her to the right people, and then took her to an audition with the top managers. There, Britney sang Whitney Houston's song, I Have Nothing. After this performance, Clive immediately signed her to a contract. Spears was only 15 years old at the time of signing. Lynn was now teaching 2nd grade at Kentwood, and Britney's sister, Jamie Lynn, was too young, so their family friend Felicia Culotta, whom the singer called simply Miss Faye, began accompanying her everywhere. The company wanted Britney to go to the recording studio immediately. She and Felicia were put up in an apartment in New York. They traveled daily to New Jersey, where the future star would go into the recording booth and sing for producer and songwriter Eric Foster White, who had worked with Whitney Houston. The booth I sang in was underground. When you're inside it, you just hear yourself, nothing else. I did that for months. I never came out of that booth. After about a year of working in a New Jersey studio, Spears collected material for her first album, and then one of the top managers suggested that she meet with the then little-known songwriter Max Martin. Their first meeting in a restaurant turned out to be stressful, as one of the candles that fell on their table almost caused a fire, but having survived this small accident, they immediately liked each other, and soon Britney went to Sweden to record new songs. As the star later admitted, she did not see the difference between Sweden and New Jersey because there, she also spent all her time in the recording booth. I worked for hours straight, the singer recalled. My work ethic was strong. I would never come out. If you knew me then, you wouldn't hear from me for days. I would stay in the studio as long as I could. If anyone wanted to leave, I'd say, I wasn't perfect. The night before recording her first world-famous hit, Baby One More Time, she stayed up late, and in the morning her voice sounded rougher, more mature, and sexier. Britney decided to add an R&B sound to it, and that's how her unique performance style appeared, which would soon conquer millions of fans around the world. Interestingly, the first concept of the music video for the song Baby One More Time was completely incomprehensible to the future pop star. She was supposed to play a futuristic astronaut somewhat similar to a Power Ranger, but Britney suggested moving the filming location to a school where she was bored in class, and when she heard music, she danced with other classmates. The girl wanted to show off her dancing skills, which she seemed to have succeeded in. In addition, it was Spears who suggested the school uniform, and her supervisor, Miss Faye, became the teacher in the video. But before the song was played on the radio and the world saw the video, Britney had a shopping mall tour. Nobody knew her yet, so it was difficult for the girl to attract attention. However, everything changed when Baby One More Time started playing on the radio. A month later, the music video was released, and Britney began to be recognized everywhere. 3 months later, her debut album with the same name as its lead single was released and very quickly sold 10 million copies. The lead single, Baby One More Time, brought Spears enormous international success, reaching #1 in most countries where it charted and became one of the best-selling singles of all time. In 2020, Rolling Stone magazine named it the greatest debut single of all time. The follow-up singles Sometimes and Born to Make You Happy reached the top 10 in most countries, and the single You Drive Me Crazy became Spears' second hit on the US Billboard Hot 100. So, Britney became the first woman to debut at #1 with a single and an album at the same time. Events began to unfold quickly. Spears went on tour simultaneously with NSYNC. She was always accompanied by her dancers Felicia or one of her 2 managers, Larry Rudolph or Johnny Wright. The singer also got a bodyguard named Big Rob, who treated her with incredible tenderness. Britney also became a regular guest on MTV's Total Request Live. Rolling Stone magazine sent David LaChapelle to Louisiana to photograph the young star for a cover of its April issue. When the issue came out, the photos caused mixed reactions because the cover featured the girl in her underwear holding a Teletubby, emphasizing how young she was. My mother seemed concerned, but I knew that I wanted to work with David LaChapelle again, Spears admitted. During her tour, Britney became very close to her Mickey Mouse Club colleague Justin Timberlake. The two of them had a lot in common, so there were plenty of topics for conversation. Whenever he and I were anywhere in the same vicinity, his mom even said this. We were like magnets. We'd just find each other immediately and stick together. You couldn't explain how we were together. It was weird, to be honest, how in love we were. However, even then, the singer began to notice that in different interviews, she and Justin were asked different questions. He, mainly about creativity, and she, about her appearance. Britney especially did not like the fact that almost every interviewer wanted to know about the authenticity of her breasts. Smiling at the camera and annoyed inside, she answered,
I think it's sad that people, think I've done that because that makes them want to go out. And, some of the fans that look up to me, they either think bad of me or they may want to go out and do that. But that's not my fault because the press started that. But
Exactly.
If you want to do that, that's fine. But I personally wouldn't do that. So.
Okay.
Spears would face these double standards in the music industry more than once, where women have been treated more as objects of sexual desire than as independent and strong individuals. In the meantime, she focused all her attention on recording her second album titled Oops, I Did It Again. And for good reason. The album was a huge commercial success worldwide, debuting at #1 in over 20 countries. In the United States, the album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling 1.319 million copies in its first week, holding the record for the fastest-selling album by a female artist and the biggest-selling first-week album by a female artist for 15 years, until Adele broke the record. Additionally, Oops, I Did It Again was nominated for Best Pop Vocal Performance at the 43rd Annual Grammy Awards in 2001. It was Spears' second consecutive album to be certified diamond, making Spears the youngest artist to have multiple diamond albums, with worldwide sales of over 20 million copies. It's one of the best-selling albums of all time. The lead single, Oops, I Did It Again, was accompanied by the hit singles Lucky and Stronger. To promote the album, Spears appeared on several television shows and awards ceremonies, and also hosted and made her first appearance on Saturday Night Live, where she played Barbie's daughter.
So does that mean Ken's my father?
Oh, no.
Ken's not your father. The 70s were a crazy time. I experimented a lot. Your father is a Han Solo action figure. He's not even our scale. What kind of slut are you?
Although the young star broke all records, becoming one of the best-selling singers of all time, she still received her share of hate. So at the MTV Video Music Awards in 2000, she sang I Can't Get No Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, and then Oops, I Did It Again. During the performance, Britney took off her jacket and hat and remained in a shiny bikini and tight leggings. Then the MTV presenter sat her down at the monitor and made her watch a video in which passersby in Times Square expressed their opinion on her performance. Some said that she did great, but a lot of people only noticed that she was not wearing enough clothes.
She's just wearing those kind of clothes to get attention, and really if she was such a great musician or artist, she wouldn't have to wear such skimpy outfits to be as well known and as famous. But I mean, I understand because a lot of the celebrities dress like that, so I guess if that's what she wants to do, then she should do it.
Spears admitted that it was a very painful experience to listen to these remarks, and she did not understand at all why they were shown to her. Trying to find a way to protect her soul from criticism and focus on what was really important, Britney began to read religious literature, such as the series Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, and she began taking Prozac. After the album Oops, I Did It Again, her name had already become a brand and her career was in her hands. That same year, Spears was included in the list of the most influential celebrities of the year by Forbes as the most influential woman, and the following year she took first place in all nominations. By the time the world tour in support of Oops, I Did It Again began, she was able to build her mother a house and pay off her father's debts. Quote, I wanted to give them a clean slate, the singer said. Britney Spears' life at that time was very intense. Touring in support of the album, endless rehearsals, and also the main role in the film Crossroads, where the singer played a good girl named Lucy Wagner. Participation in the project was not easy for Spears, and not because of the exhausting shooting schedule or troubles on the set. She simply got so used to her role that she could no longer distinguish where Lucy ended and Britney began. All I can say is that it's a good thing Lucy was a sweet girl writing poems about how she was not a girl, not yet a woman, and not a serial killer. The star joked about her experience. But back then, she was not in the mood for jokes because even her boyfriend, Justin, often asked, why are you walking like that? Who are you? Britney admitted that she was brought out of the role by a friend who simply went with her to buy some makeup stuff. I swear to God, I walked into the store and as I talked to her while we shopped, I finally came back to myself. When I came outside again, I was cured of the spell that movie had cast. It was so strange. My little spirit showed back up in my body. That trip to buy makeup with my friend was like waving some magic wand, Spears admitted. Despite her struggles with self-identification, Britney managed to convey her character's experiences on the big screen and bring success to Paramount Pictures. The film Crossroads grossed $61.1 million worldwide on a budget of $10 to $12 million. However, Spears realized that acting was not for her because to turn into other characters in real life would be a real madness. By the way, she was offered the main female role in The Notebook because she, along with Rachel McAdams, made it to the casting finals, but then she refused and never regretted it.
Has she ever tried to see me?
No, she hasn't.
Well, I was thinking maybe she's afraid to visit me.
Luce, we've talked about this. You do not have to feel any guilt about your mother leaving
But
us.
what if...
Baby, this is not about us.
By the way, all three soundtracks from the movie Crossroads, I Love Rock and Roll, Overprotected, and I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman, were included in the singer's third studio album called Britney. Overall, this album became her reflection of growing up and better knowing and understanding herself. This is the first album I have ever really written and taken my time on, so when I actually listen to the whole album, it's just that much more special. I don't know if I'm the best songwriter in the world, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and hopefully I'll get better and grow. And she did. The album Britney was a global commercial success and debuted atop the US Billboard 200 with first week sales of 746,000 copies, making Spears the first female artist to have her first 3 studio albums debut at the top of the chart, a record she later broke with her 4th studio album, In the Zone, in 2003. Critics, however, gave it mixed reviews. They praised Spears' musical progress, but criticized her increasingly provocative image. Meanwhile, Britney was nominated for Best Pop Vocal Performance at the 45th Annual Grammy Awards with worldwide sales of over 10 million copies. It became one of the best-selling albums of the 21st century. One of the album's hits was the song I'm a Slave for You. At the MTV Video Music Awards ceremony in September 2001, Britney chose to sing this song, and to impress the audience, they decided to use a real snake as a prop. This performance became iconic in the history of the MTV Video Music Awards, but as the singer admitted, it actually looked even scarier than it seemed. The star first saw the snake when it was brought into a small back room at the Metropolitan Opera in Manhattan, where they were preparing for a show. The snake was wrapped around Britney's neck and torso, and at first, everything was fine. Everything changed, though, when I actually had to do the song on stage with a snake, the singer recalled. Quote, "On stage, I'm in performance mode. I'm in a costume, and there's nobody else there but me. Once again, the little munchkin came to me and handed me that huge snake, and all I knew was to look down because I felt if I looked up and caught its eye, it would kill me." In the middle of the performance, the snake suddenly appeared right in front of Britney's face and began to hiss at her. For the rest of the performance, the singer could only think about getting rid of this creature as quickly as possible. Finally, I got to the part when I handed it back. Thank God, Britney admitted. But she wasn't allowed to relax after such a tense performance. The very next night at Madison Square Garden in New York, a few days before September 11th, she sang The Way You Make Me Feel as a duet with Michael Jackson, in honor of the 13th anniversary of his solo career. When I think back on that time, I was truly living the dream. Living my dream. In addition, Britney was constantly involved in the Pepsi advertising campaign. In different videos, Spears played different roles. She was a delivery driver, starred in cool outfits from different eras. She was turned into a Robert Palmer look-alike from the time of Simply Irresistible. By the way, the singer's hair and makeup were done for 4 hours, and they still couldn't turn her into a convincing man. But in the episode about the 50s, the star enjoyed dancing in a restaurant for the drivers. And who doesn't remember this iconic advertisement?
Buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise, playing in the street, gonna be a big man someday.
Recognize it? Write in the comments which of the commercials featuring Britney Spears have you seen, and what do you remember about it? And we'll continue. In Spears' personal life, as she herself admitted, that period was also cloudless, at least at the beginning. She and Justin lived together in Orlando. They had a wonderful, spacious 2-story house with a swimming pool in the backyard. Although they both worked a lot, they still tried to find time and be at home together when there was such an opportunity. Britney returned home every few months, so she and Justin could be together for 2 weeks, sometimes 2 months in a row. That was a good time in my life. I was so in love with Justin, just smitten. I don't know if when you're younger, love is a different thing, but what Justin and I had was special. He didn't even have to say anything or do anything for me to feel close to him. Justin even agreed to wear all denim to support his girlfriend, who also wore denim to the 2001 American Music Awards. His look was later criticized in the press, but according to Timberlake, he didn't really care. On one of the podcasts, the singer said, quote, "You do a lot of things when you're young and in love." However, Justin had another, darker side. Spears admitted that she knew about his betrayals but preferred to turn a blind eye to it. The paparazzi caught him in a car with one of the soloists of the band All Saints in London. In addition, the singer was told about affairs with dancers and fans, and even after that, Britney loved Timberlake and didn't even think about breaking up with him. However, knowing about all the singer's betrayals, she also decided to cheat on him. Only once with dancer and choreographer Wade Robson. And then she told Justin about it and that she knew about his betrayals. The couple decided to put all grudges behind them, and Spears thought that they would be together forever. But then Britney got pregnant. They were both not ready to have a child, but the singer wanted to carry the baby. Timberlake, on the other hand, was categorically against it and convinced his girlfriend to have an abortion. Since such an event could leak to the press and cause a huge scandal, they decided to terminate the pregnancy at home. One day, in the presence of Justin and Felicia, Britney took special pills. She was told that it could be uncomfortable, but according to the singer, the pain was unbearable. "I went into the bathroom and stayed there for hours, lying on the floor, sobbing and screaming," the star recalled with pain. Quote, "I thought they should have numbed me with something. I thought I wanted some kind of anesthesia. I wanted to go to the doctor. I was so scared. I lay there, wondering if I was gonna die." When I tell you it was painful, I can't begin to describe it. The pain was unbelievable. I went down to the ground on my knees holding the toilet. For a long time, I couldn't move. To this day, it's one of the most agonizing things I've ever experienced in my life. But Britney wasn't taken to the hospital. Instead, Justin went into the room and lay down on the floor next to her. At some point, he decided that maybe some music would distract his girlfriend from the pain. So he picked up the guitar and started playing. I kept crying and sobbing until it was all over. The singer recalled, quote, "It took hours, and I don't remember how it ended, but I do, 20 years later, remember the pain of it and the fear." After this incident, Britney was away for some time, but she loved Justin and was ready to do anything for him. However, he probably had a different opinion about their future together. After all they've been through, during the filming of the video for the song Overprotected, Dark Child Remix, Spears received a text message from Timberlake that he wanted to break up with her. Britney returned to Louisiana and fell into a deep depression. She did not want to talk to anyone, not even to Justin, who came to her holding a long letter that he had written and put in a frame. It ended with the phrase, "I can't breathe without you." For him, it was a kind of passionate gesture, but Spears still found it difficult to come to terms with the new reality. She'd long considered the Timberlake family her family, but she could not find a common language with her own parents. Her mother was going through a divorce from her father, and her younger sister was becoming more and more selfish. To somehow distract herself, and more importantly, according to the terms of the contract, Britney continued to perform at concerts on tour and also began to attend parties. However, when Timberlake released his solo album Justified, all eyes were again fixed on Spears. In all interviews, Justin made it clear that it was his girlfriend who was to blame for the end of their relationship because she betrayed him. Of course, the singer kept quiet about his own betrayals, and after the release of the music video for the song Cry Me a River, where a blonde, very similar to Britney, betrays him and he takes revenge on her, a wave of hate simply overwhelmed the pop star. Everyone expected an explanation from her. And what about Britney? Oddly enough, she was finally glad to get rid of her image of an innocent girl, which her managers had created for her. However, she still did not understand how her lover could do this to her. The way Justin admitted to everyone that we'd had a sexual relationship broke the ice and made it so that I never had to come out myself as a non-virgin, the singer explained. His talking about our having sex never bothered me at all, and I've defended him to people who criticized him for doing it. "That's so rude," people have said about his talking about me sexually, but I liked it. What I heard when he said that was, "She's a woman. No, she's not a virgin. Shut up." While Justin was gaining fame during their breakup, Britney decided to have some fun in the arms of the famous actor Colin Farrell, with whom she had a short but passionate affair. In addition, Spears met Madonna, who became not only her friend, but also a mentor. She performed a red thread ceremony with Britney to initiate her into Kabbalah, and gave her a chest full of Zohar books to pray to. Spears got a tattoo of a Hebrew word on her neck, which meant one of the 72 names of God. Some Kabbalists believe that this word means healing, and the singer was trying to heal herself at that time. Spears and Madonna, along with Christina Aguilera, decided to perform at the MTV Video Music Awards, where people saw their iconic kiss during the performance. The camera immediately stopped at Timberlake to capture his reaction. After this performance, Britney suggested that Madonna record a song together. The result of the singer's collaboration was the world-famous hit Me Against the Music, which was included in the singer's fourth album, In the Zone. It also included mega singles like Toxic, for which Spears won a Grammy, and Every Time, the video for which has caused a lot of buzz, especially in recent years due to its plot. Many fans believe that the scene with the baby being born at the end of the music video hints at Britney and Justin's unborn child. Spears was working on her fourth album and trying not to think about the painful breakup, but Diane Sawyer reminded her of it in a big interview with the star. The singer was not warned about what questions would be asked, so when Sawyer mentioned Justin, she could not hold back her tears. Diane also suggested that Britney had cheated on Timberlake and broken his heart, to which the singer replied,
I think everyone has a side to their story, and to make them feel a certain way, to make them feel, and I'm not technically saying he's wrong, but I'm not technically saying he's right either. So, this feels really awkward right now.
That interview finally broke Britney, who did not want to share the details of her failed romance with the whole world, but she was forced to do it. I felt like something dark came over my body. I felt myself turning, almost like a werewolf, into a bad person. To get a little distracted from the stress, Spears and her friends went to Vegas. Parties, dancing, alcohol, and meeting Paris Hilton. But this trip became unforgettable, not because of the above reasons, but because of an accidental marriage to childhood friend Jason Allen Alexander, with whom they hung out in Vegas. Well, who hasn't gotten drunk in Sin City and not gotten married? Of course, parents and managers quickly corrected the situation. The marriage, which lasted only 55 hours, was annulled, and Britney was sent on a new tour in support of her fourth album. However, it didn't last long because during a performance in one of the cities in Illinois, she severely injured her knee, so the tour was over. Britney met her future husband, Kevin Federline, at a club called Joseph's Cafe in Hollywood. The singer admitted that she immediately felt an invisible connection with him. Kevin had a bad boy image. Still, I had no idea when we met that he was a toddler, nor that his ex-girlfriend was 8 months pregnant with his second baby. I was clueless. Later, the star found out about another woman and directly asked Kevin about it. He didn't deny anything. Despite this fact, Spears decided to take her boyfriend with her on tour where they had fun between concerts. Together, they filmed a video diary until Britney received another knee surgery on the set of the music video for the song Outrageous. So, 2 months before the end, the tour had to be canceled because she was recovering from arthroscopic surgery. That same fall, Britney and Kevin got married. They had a surprise ceremony in September, but the lawyers needed more time to draw a prenup, so the marriage was legally concluded a few weeks later. The ceremony was filmed by People's Magazine. Spears wore a bustier dress while her bridesmaids wore burgundy dresses. After the ceremony, Britney changed into a pink tracksuit with the words Mrs. Federline written on it, and everyone else wore bright tracksuits as the guests went to a club to dance the night away. Now that the star was married and thinking about starting a family, she decided to start saying no to what she thought was wrong. She said goodbye to her managers, who were overloading her with work, and publishing a letter to fans on her website in which she said she wanted to take a break and enjoy life. So she did. She became a real housewife, and most importantly, she got pregnant. This time, she knew that a child was desirable for both of them and was happy to prepare for motherhood. It's true what they say. When you have a baby, no one can prepare you. It's a miracle. You're creating another body. It was a spiritual experience. Such an incredibly powerful bond. Since her mother had been scaring Britney since childhood about difficult childbirth, as she'd been giving birth to her for more than 20 hours, the singer was happy when she was offered a C-section. The firstborn, Sean Preston, was born on September 14, 2005. 3 months later, the star became pregnant again. Kevin decided to pursue a solo career at that time, and Spears supported him in this. But because of this, a gap began to form between the spouses. Federline and his friends disappeared into the studio day and night, smoking weed, and Britney was left alone at that time. She felt that the relationship was deteriorating, and they were moving away from each other. However, she refused to believe in the beginning of the end. It got to the point that Spears, pregnant with her second child, was no longer allowed into the studio where her husband was recording. Close to Sean Preston's first birthday on September 12, 2006, the family welcomed the second son, Jaden James, and then the paparazzi became more active. They stalked the singer day and night, trying to take exclusive photos with the babies. They did not let the star pass, often blocked her exits, brought her to tears in stores and at the market, and even forced her to flee in a car with a small child at the wheel. Rumors began to spread in the press that Britney Spears was a terrible mother. Of course, they were fueled by bright photos and gossip. The star at that time focused on the family nest and made repairs in their new house in Los Angeles, which was located next to Mel Gibson's home. According to Spears, she was very demanding at that time and wanted to control everything. Moreover, she did not even allow her mother to hold the babies in her arms for the first 2 months, and even then only for 5 minutes. Her hormones were going crazy, and her obsession with protecting her sons from external dangers grew every day. At the same time, Britney had to continue her work, and while she was pregnant for the second time, she dyed her hair dark and decided to change the style of her songs as well. The album Blackout turned out to be less pop and more dance-oriented. It had to be recorded quickly because the paparazzi never left the star alone. Managers organized some place in the studio for the kids, and Spears worked a little, mainly only on recording vocals. However, this album was the first where the singer acted as an executive producer. She approved the songs herself, and according to her, this is one of the best creations in her career. Blackout was one of the easiest and most satisfying albums I ever made. It came together really fast. For the music video for the most popular single from the album, Gimme More, she and a friend went to a bar and filmed the video on their own camera. But even though the video was poor quality, it achieved its goal. She was noticed by interesting and talented people who wanted to collaborate with her, and although her family life was falling apart before her eyes, Spears blossomed creatively. Kevin became increasingly distant from his wife, and when he was offered a small role as a fast food worker in a Super Bowl commercial, he became completely arrogant and stopped contacting Britney. So when the youngest son, Jaden, was 2 months old, Spears filed for divorce. She learned from her lawyer that if she didn't do it, Federline would. They both filed a petition for full custody of the children. This step from her husband surprised Britney because Kevin spent almost no time with his sons. The press, of course, relished the details of this process. Many sided with Federline, while those who supported Spears threw dirt on her husband, which, according to the singer, did not help her much. That same month, the star hosted the American Music Awards. While she waited backstage, Jimmy Kimmel delivered a monologue in which he mocked Kevin.
Federline is the world's first ever no-hit wonder. But God bless him, he keeps trying it, and as a matter of fact, we have a very special surprise to start things off tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, appearing for the last time on American television, the Pope of Popozal, the one, the only, Kevin Federline!
Everyone in the audience laughed, but Britney didn't like the joke. She spoke out about it backstage. I also didn't think that in the midst of a custody battle, having my ex-husband treated that way would be of any benefit to me. Everyone seemed to be delighted by news of our divorce. Everyone except me. I did not feel like celebrating. Spears was helped to survive the painful divorce by Paris Hilton, who began taking her to parties, and the press again flashed headlines about Britney as a terrible mother. Now, stories about the abuse of illegal substances and alcohol have also been added to this. Britney, in her book The Woman in Me, which we'll talk about a little later, noted that she never had a problem with alcohol addiction, and as for illegal substances, she only used Adderall. It's usually given to children with ADHD. Adderall made me high, yes, but what I found far more appealing was that it gave me a few hours of feeling less depressed, the star said. It was the only thing that worked for me as an antidepressant, and I really felt like I needed one of those. The custody court ordered Britney to undergo random drug and alcohol tests twice a week after evidence of habitual, frequent, and continuous use of controlled substances and alcohol was found. It's not known whether Britney violated any of these orders. That is, there were statements about the use of prohibited substances at the court level, but there was no published evidence, so this leaves a lot of questions. Kevin took advantage of this situation and took the children away. He began to convince everyone that his wife was not able to take care of herself or her sons. When Britney went back to ask him to give the boys back, he did not allow it. And besides, the whole scene was filmed by the paparazzi. In desperation, Spears went to a hair salon, took a hair clipper, and shaved her head. Everyone thought it was hilarious. Look how crazy she is. Even my parents acted embarrassed by me, but nobody seemed to understand that I was simply out of my mind with grief. My children had been taken away from me. This act completely ruined the pop princess's image, and since then the singer's been talked about as crazy. When a few days after this episode, Britney went to Federline again, the paparazzi were there again. They didn't let her drive, threw questions at her, and didn't understand the word no. In a fit of anger, Spears grabbed the first thing she saw, an umbrella, ran out of her car, and hit the paparazzi's car with it. Pathetic, really, the star admitted. An umbrella. You can't even do any damage with an umbrella. It was a desperate move by a desperate person. In order not to further damage the custody battle, Britney's family convinced her to go to rehab. When she got out of rehab, a lawyer helped her get 50-50 custody, but the battle still continued. Blackout, the album Spears was most proud of, was released just before Halloween in 2007. The star was supposed to perform Gimme More at the MTV Music Video Awards to promote the song. Britney didn't want to perform, but her team convinced her that she needed to show the world that she was fine. But the problem was, she wasn't fine. The performance only confirmed those suspicions. On stage, she seemed confused. Her smile seemed insincere, and her not-so-ideal figure, despite having given birth to 2 children, seemed to shock many people. Despite the singer's controversial behavior, music critics and fans called Blackout the Bible of pop music for its impact on the music industry. And even now, it's considered one of the most influential albums of all time. Although there were those who focused not on the innovativeness of the music, but on the image of the star herself. Thus, Stephen Thomas Erlewine of AllMusic stated that Spears was an artist that always relied on her, quote, carefully sculpted sexpot next door persona. But for Blackout, quote, those images were replaced by images of Britney beating cars up with umbrellas, wiping her greasy fingers on designer dresses, and nodding off on stage. Each new disaster stripping away any residual sexiness in her public image. But Britney paid no attention to such statements because ahead of her lay a difficult battle for the right to be a mother and for her own freedom from conservatorship, under which she would fall for 13 long years. Do you think Britney's public behavior was justified? Write in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the like. And we'll continue. In January 2008, when Britney was about to hand over her children to her ex-husband's bodyguard after spending time with them, she suddenly panicked. She realized that she might never see her kids again, especially since the custody trial was still ongoing. In a panic attack, Spears locked herself in the bathroom with little Jaden in her arms. She sat there and cried until the SWAT team broke down the door and took the boy away. Britney was strapped to a gurney and taken to the hospital. Although she was released after 72 hours, the court decided to reduce the number of weekly hours with the children because of this incident. At the same time, the singer learned from one of the tabloids that her younger sister was pregnant at 16 and was seeking release from her parents through the court. Then, according to the Star, she was angry at the whole world, and especially at her ex-husband, who not only did not save their marriage, but also took away the most precious thing from her children. So the dose of Adderall increased several times. Spears also began to meet with a paparazzi photographer, despite her prejudiced attitude towards people from this profession. At that time, she did not know that her new boyfriend was married, and she in fact was his mistress, and the singer found out about it only after they broke up. The photographer helped me with my depression. I longed for attention, and he gave me the attention I needed. The photographer encouraged me to rebel. He let me sow my oats, and he still loved me for it. And indeed, Britney, as they say, went wild. She didn't do anything particularly illegal, but there was a lot of noise in the press. Her behavior in public only caused outrage. I talked as if I were out of my mind, the singer recalled. Quote, I was so loud everywhere I went, even at restaurants. People would go out to eat with me and I would lie down on the table. It was a way of saying f*** you to any person who came my way. One day, Spears' mother called, said that the police were looking for her and asked her to come to her place. That same evening, a whole SWAT team arrived at the star's house, and from that moment on, her life completely turned upside down. Custody of her sons was finally given to Kevin Federline, and her father, James, was given full custody of her daughter. Conservatorship is usually awarded to incapacitated people who can't do anything for themselves, but Britney's psyche was functioning well. She'd recently released the best album of her entire career, earning a lot of money for many people, especially her father, who, as it turned out, received a higher salary than he paid his own daughter. He paid himself over $6 million and tens of millions to his close associates. I remained shocked that the state of California would let a man like my father, an alcoholic, someone who declared bankruptcy, who failed in business, who terrified me as a little girl, control me after all my accomplishments and everything I had done. But behind all this conservatorship, as it turned out, was not just James, but a certain Louise Lou Taylor. At first, this woman was simply an obsessive fan of the star, writing her letters and showering her with gifts, which were delivered to Spears' door. There's even a letter to a lawyer dated back to 2007 where the singer talks about fearing for her life and the lives of her children because of a crazy fan named Louise Taylor. When letters and gifts did not bring the desired effect, Lou decided to act through Britney's father. The fan instilled in him confidence and began to persuade him that she led the church and saved people from sins. So she was ready to help him with his daughter who had strayed from the right path. Britney's father was very easily influenced by Taylor and acted on her instructions. In particular, he declassified his daughter's personal data. In the end, Jamie Spears and Lou became inseparable friends and loyal allies in their attempts to prove to the world that Britney needed conservatorship. Through their joint efforts, in 2008, the father received the right to fully manage his daughter's life, and Taylor became her manager. Lou completely brainwashed Jamie. She convinced him that conservatorship was the only way, and of course, he agreed when he heard about the financial control he would receive. Lou, in turn, thought she'd have someone naive enough that she could continue to influence him, therefore, continue to directly influence Britney's life and career for many years. Insiders shared information back then. Judging by bank statements recently released in court, the woman received huge payments from the star's father for more than 10 years. She was removed from the case only in 2020. Over the years, Lou Taylor began to manage the affairs of almost all members of the Spears family, receiving huge fees and building a business woman's image around herself. And James Spears gained complete control over his daughter and her finances. While Britney's life was falling apart, her mother was writing a memoir. She promoted her book on television, pointing out all the mistakes her daughter made while not blaming her own parenting methods at all.
You sent her to Promises, that rehab center.
Well, I just felt like she needed to sort her life out.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, if you, like I said, don't run from your problems, you need to stop. You need to stop what you're doing and think.
What was she doing? Was she doing drugs and alcohol, do you think?
I don't know.
Did it help?
I think it put a Band-Aid on the problem.
The book brought Britney's mother a huge success, all at the cost of her daughter's fame and public attention. The singer of that time was going through the worst period of her life. The book became another nail in the coffin of the star's sanity. She wrote it trading on my name and talking about her parenting of me and my brother and sister at a time when all three of us kids were basket cases. Jamie Lynn was a pregnant teenager. Brian was struggling to find his place in the world and still convinced he was letting our father down, and I was in full meltdown. Spears came under the total control of her father. She was forbidden to have a mobile phone. Every time she left the house, the apartment was checked for alcohol and illegal substances. At parties where the singer was present, everyone was forbidden to drink alcohol until she left. Before each first date, her boyfriends were forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and they were also told the star's entire medical and intimate history. It's worth noting she was also forced to end her relationship with the photographer. If you're asking why I went along with it, there's only one very good reason. I did it for my kids. Because I played by the rules, I was reunited with my boys. In order to see them as often as possible, the singer did everything she could to appease Kevin. She paid his lawyer's bills, child support, and thousands more a month just so that the children could go with her on the new circus tour in support of her fifth album of the same name, which we'll talk about later. In the same short period of time, the star appeared on the show Good Morning America, lit the Christmas tree in Los Angeles, was interviewed on Ellen's show, and went on tour in Europe and Australia. Despite her parents' claims in court that she was incapable of taking care of herself, Britney has consistently argued the opposite. Just a month after the announcement of her conservatorship, the singer appeared in a cameo role as a receptionist Abby in an episode of the popular TV series How I Met Your Mother. She even received positive reviews for her performance and also brought the series its highest ratings in history.
Sir, please don't yell at me, because when people yell at me, I have a tendency to start crying.
In July 2008, Spears did regain some visitation rights to see her children after reaching an agreement with Federline and his lawyer. In September, the star opened the awards ceremony with a pre-recorded comedy sketch with Jonah Hill and an opening speech. In total, the star won over 20 awards during that difficult year, including Cosmopolitan's magazine's Woman of the Year award. A year after her Gimme More performance was mocked at the same MTV Video Music Awards for her song Piece of Me, she won 3 awards for Best Female Video, Best Pop Video, and Video of the Year. I sometimes thought it was almost funny how I won those awards for the album I made while I was supposedly so incapacitated that I had to be controlled by my family. The truth was, though, when I stopped to think about it for very long, it wasn't funny at all. And at the end of that difficult and eventful year of 2008, they released a 60-minute introspective documentary, Britney for the Record, which was created to chronicle Spears' return to the music industry. The movie was directed by Phil Griffin and filmed in Beverly Hills, Hollywood, and New York. In the film, Britney not only talked about the difficult period after the breakup with Justin Timberlake and her ex-husband Kevin Federline, she even lifted the curtain of her conservatorship. There's no excitement. There's no passion. I have really good days, and then I have bad days. Even when you go to jail, you know there's the time when you're going to get out, but in this situation, it's never ending. It's just like Groundhog Day every day. And the singer added, I think it's too in control. If I wasn't under the restraints I'm under, I'd feel so liberated. When I tell them the way I feel, it's like they hear, but they're really not listening. I never wanted to become one of those prisoner people. I always wanted to feel free. How James allowed such words to reach the public remains a mystery. Britney for the Record premiered on MTV on November 30th, 2008 in the United States, 2 days before the release of her 6th studio album, Circus, for which the documentary served as a good promotion. The movie received mixed reviews from critics, but it was watched by more than 5.6 million viewers. It was MTV's highest-rated Sunday night time slot and had the highest ratings in the network's history. It's no surprise that Britney's fifth album, Circus, received widespread critical acclaim upon its release, with only mixed reviews for the lyrical content and Spears' vocal delivery. A global commercial success, the album debuted atop the US Billboard 200 with first-week sales of 505,000 copies, becoming her fifth #1 album and being certified 3 times platinum. By September 2009, the album had sold over 4 million copies worldwide. At the 52nd Annual Grammy Awards, its lead single, Womanizer, was nominated for Best Dance Recording. In addition to this song, other singles from the album like Circus, Radar, and If You Seek Amy became popular. The latter song, by the way, caused a stir because of the way the first letters of the title sounded, which were combined into an F word. Because of this, the Parents Association even protested against radio stations that wanted to put the track in rotation. An agreement was reached when Britney released the radio version of the single If You See Amy without the letter K to get rid of the consonants with the swear word. No matter how difficult the singer's situation was, she tried to find joy and comfort in her children and her daily routine. She made friends and began dating agent Jason Trawick. He was 10 years older than Britney, and she felt safe with him. The couple eventually dated for 3 years and even got engaged, but after Jason became her second guardian in 2012, the relationship came to naught. There came a point when I realized that I didn't have any bad feelings toward him, but I also didn't love him anymore. I stopped sleeping in the same room with him. I just wanted to cuddle my kids. Jason left, but Britney didn't care. A year before their breakup, she released a new album called Femme Fatale, with the dance hits Hold It Against Me, Till the World Ends, Criminal, and of course, I Wanna Go, which made Femme Fatale Spears' first album to have 3 top hits on the Billboard Hot 100. The album received generally positive reviews from music critics. On Metacritic, Femme Fatale has an average score of 67 out of 100, indicating generally favorable reviews, and Jody Rosen of Rolling Stone commented that, quote, "It may be Britney's best album. Certainly it's her strangest." And for Britney herself, it was just work. Painstaking, exhausting work, but there was no stopping. In 2012, just before her breakup with Jason, Spears took part in The X Factor, although the singer said she didn't like the judging. And because of the conservatorship of her parents, who reunited in 2010, she felt like a bird in a cage whose freedom of choice had been taken away. "The woman in me was pushed down for a long time," the star confessed. "They wanted me to be wild on stage, the way they told me to be, and be a robot the rest of the time. I felt like I was being deprived of those good secrets of life, those fundamental supposed sins of indulgence and adventure that make us human. They wanted to take away that specialness and keep everything as rote as possible. It was death to my creativity as an artist." However, Spears did return to the studio, and for good reason. Together with will.i.am, they recorded the hit Work, Bitch, which was later included on the singer's 8th album, Britney Jean. The singles Perfume and Till It's Gone were also included. Upon release, the album received mixed reviews from music critics, who found it impersonal despite its marketing, and were ambivalent about its dated production. Britney Jean also sparked controversy over the authenticity of some of the vocals. The album debuted at number 4 on the US Billboard 200, selling 107,000 copies in its first week. This made it Spears' lowest charting and lowest selling album in the United States. And Britney later admitted that she no longer had much inspiration to record new songs. It was then that the singer was offered to perform with a show program in Vegas, and she, in order to, quote, change the scenery, agreed. The show really became a success. And Britney then began to date TV producer Charlie Ebersol. He instilled in the singer a love of energy supplements because he was intensively involved in sports. After taking them, Britney really had a lot of energy. However, her father quickly banned them, although they were available without a prescription, and again, sent his daughter to rehab. After leaving the rehab, James put Britney on a strict diet and told the singer that she was fat. Requests for chocolate or any treats were immediately rejected, and the entire diet was reduced to chicken and canned vegetables. Going to spas was also forbidden. At the same time, her mother and sister could eat whatever they wanted, while Britney starved and worked. The star was paid about $2,000 a week for her own expenses. If she wanted a pair of sneakers, for example, that her guardians said she didn't need, the singer would be denied. And once, when Spears tried to pay for a friend at a restaurant, her card was declined, and this despite the fact that she had performed 248 shows and sold more than 900,000 tickets in Vegas. Each show brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars. One of the things that brought Britney joy and hope during her time in Vegas was teaching her children dance at a studio once a month. She taught a group of 40 children, and when she returned to Los Angeles, she began teaching children dance once every 2 months at a studio near her home. Spears decided to push through and get out of conservatorship. In 2014, she went to court, mentioned her father's alcoholism and his crazy behavior, and asked to have him tested for banned substances, but her case went nowhere. The judge simply didn't want to listen. Then there was the attempt to hire her own lawyer. The singer even mentioned the conservatorship on a talk show in 2016 when she was talking about her new album Glory, but that part was cut from the interview.
It was like, I think since the conservatorship, I'm in a conservatorship, is the 3rd year of me being under that, and I felt like a lot of the things were planned for me to do, and being told what to do, and I was just like, for this one, I want to make it my baby, and I want to do it myself, and I was very strategic about the way I did it, and that's why it means so much to me.
Glory was the singer's 9th and final album, the title of which was suggested by her sons. And while filming the music video for one of the album's songs, Slumber Party, she met her future husband, fitness trainer and model Sam Asghari. The first time I saw Sam Asghari on the set of my video Slumber Party, I knew I wanted him in my life immediately. I was instantly smitten. The chemistry with us in the beginning was insane. We couldn't keep our hands off each other. He called me his lioness. The tabloids immediately began to write that Sam was cheating on the singer, and then her father decided to send her to treatment again because she was secretly taking her energy supplements. James decided that Britney had problems, but showed mercy and said that she could be treated as an outpatient if she attended AA meetings 4 times a week. At first, the star resisted because she saw no reason to go to treatment, but after listening to the stories of the women who went to the meetings, she found inspiration in them, and the inspiration also came with writing the album. When I did the videos for the singles from Glory, I felt so light and so free. Glory reminded me what it felt like to perform new material and how much I needed it. The album was also well received by critics. They praised Spears' vocal performance in the album's production and ranked it among her best albums. Several publications included Glory in their list of the best albums of 2016. Although it was less commercially successful than Spears' other albums, Glory debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200, becoming her 9th consecutive top 5 album in the United States. It topped the charts in the Czech Republic, Ireland, and Italy, and reached the top 5 in 20 other countries. During this time, Britney worked hard and followed the schedule that was set for her, usually 4 weeks on and 4 weeks off. When she was working, she did 3 2-hour shows a week, and when she was off, she also followed the weekly schedule that was set for her. 4 AA meetings, 2 hours of psychotherapy, and 3 hours of training per week, plus meetings with fans and 3 shows. I was burned out, and I wanted to control my own destiny. But no one would let her do that. When the singer got tired of the show in Vegas, she wanted to go on vacation with her sons, but instead she was forced to continue performing and then sent to rehab altogether. Doctors separated her from her children. Britney couldn't go outside. She had to have blood tests every week. She couldn't take a bath without prying eyes. She couldn't close the door to her room. She was watched even when she was changing clothes. The singer had to go to bed at 9. She was monitored even when she was watching TV from 8 to 9 o'clock in bed, and every morning she had to get up at 8. Every day, the star had endless meetings, and for several hours a day, she sat in a chair in a forced psychotherapy session. I was told that everything that was happening was for my own good, but I felt abandoned in that place. And while everyone kept saying they were there to help me, I never could understand what my family wanted from me. I did everything that I was expected to do. Britney's children would come to her for an hour on weekends, but if she didn't do what was required of her during the week, she wasn't allowed to see them. A few weeks after this rehab drill, a nurse called her in and showed her a video from a talk show where her fans were trying to figure out what was really happening to their favorite singer. They were wearing t-shirts that said #FreeBritney. For 13 years, Britney Spears lived under the official conservatorship of her father. This means that she could not manage her own money, which she still earned, meet with her children on a schedule, and did not have the right to get married, get pregnant, or even simply leave the city without her father's permission. Fans sounded the alarm back in 2020, and Britney feeling enormous support, was able to break free at the end of 2021. But how did all this really happen? Earning tens of millions of dollars, Britney Spears did not see any money under her father's conservatorship. At first, she was entitled to $2,000 a month. Then Jamie relented, and this amount was then given weekly. Unfortunately, that was the only concession. Poor Britney had a whole list of things she couldn't do. The most absurd of them were hiring staff, asking about earnings, giving interviews, changing her style of clothing, hair and makeup, doing any shopping, getting pregnant or giving birth, driving a car, leaving the house without permission, even for a short walk. James forbade her to do literally everything. Among other things, the superstar's phone was tapped and her father had access to her mail, social networks, and instant messengers. The conservatorship was brutal, and the singer had no way to change the situation. Britney's absurd posts, strange dances, and appearances on social media are probably known to everyone. At first, it was a reason for cruel jokes, until someone decided that Spears was giving signs in this way. Recall, her social media was being monitored, which meant that Britney couldn't talk openly about her situation with her father. Here, everyone remembered the hashtag FreeBritney again. It first appeared at the beginning of the story of Britney Spears and her father, that same 2008 when the singer's life ceased to belong to her. In July 2020, the wave in the star's defense flared up with renewed vigor. Devoted fans volunteered to help. In the comments, they asked to wear yellow if she needed help, and she did. In one of the posts, Britney quoted the book by Arundhati Roy, The God of Small Things, the main character of which was trying to escape from her evil father. This was also taken as a hint and a plea for help. Once, she posted a reproduction of a painting by Hans Zatzke, an Austrian artist who often worked under pseudonyms in order to be able to break contracts. The conclusions were obvious. Her father was holding Britney Spears hostage, and she wanted to escape from conservatorship. With the new strong wave of #FreeBritney, the movement activists have become bolder and began to publicly express their theories despite James's threats. So, people who cared were sure that Britney's blank stare, strained smile, meaningless dances, and confused speech were the result of years of taking medications with which her father tried to calm her down. The question was why Spears' father was her guardian, and whether the star really needed total control over her life. Apparently, realizing how many people around the world were ready to support her, Britney dared. At another hearing on June 24th, 2021, Spears decided to tell the whole truth about her life over the past 13 years and the details of her imprisonment. You can't call it anything else. Shocked those who thought that her father's custody was necessary for her own good.
I'm not happy. I can't sleep. I'm so angry, it's insane, and I'm depressed. I cry every day, and the reason I'm telling you this is because I don't think how the state of California can have all this written in the court documents from the time I showed up and do absolutely nothing, just hire with my money another person to keep my dad on board. Ma'am, my dad and anyone involved in this conservatorship and my management who played a huge role in punishing at me when I said, no, ma'am, they should be in jail.
The singer, who was already dating her future husband, Sam Asghari, was tired of being watched around the clock. She dreamed of getting married again and becoming a mother for the third time. And her father forced his daughter to insert an IUD, which he forbade her to remove because he did not want heirs. There was no question of making an appointment with a doctor without permission. In court during a conservatorship hearing for Britney Spears, the singer begged to stop forcibly pumping her with pills. In 2013, when she was forced to give concerts almost every day, Britney said that she would not go on stage. The issue was resolved simply. She was given lithium. Quote, lithium is a very, very strong and completely different medication compared to what I was used to. You can go mentally impaired if you take too much, if you stay on it longer than 5 months. But he put me on that and I felt drunk. I really couldn't even take up for myself. I couldn't even have a conversation with my mom or dad, Britney Spears said frankly, talking about the details of her father's conservatorship of her. According to Britney, her father has enjoyed her tears and suffering. Spears had to please her dad all the time. Otherwise, he would simply stop giving her money, and her already limited life would become even more unbearable. At the same time, no matter what happened, Britney and her father looked quite normal, and no one knew how hard the star lived under conservatorship. In the summer of 2021, the singer first appeared in a Los Angeles court, asking to be released from her father's conservatorship. She brought charges against her father and the court, which in 2020 decided to leave her in conservatorship. Talking about the history of conservatorship, Britney Spears admitted that her psyche has been very traumatized. She is afraid of people and no longer trusts anyone. At the same time, she was tired of the constant medical treatment in her life. For example, Britney said that she was ready to continue working with a psychologist, but at least once a week. Not 3, as it was back then, emphasizing that she rather hoped for God's help. The singer also stated she would not return to the stage until her father and other guardians and supervisors stepped down from their duties. The judge admired Spears' courage in her lawsuit with her father and said she would do everything she could to figure out the situation. Doctors and therapists who had been treating the singer were questioned. On the day of Britney Spears' fateful trial against her father, the star's boyfriend, Sam Asghari, also supported his girlfriend, condemning the conservatorship. "I have zero respect for someone trying to control our relationship and constantly throwing obstacles in our way." During the process of suing her father, Spears was even supported by her ex-boyfriend, Justin Timberlake. The musician noted that what was happening to her was wrong, and in today's world, no one had the right to dictate to a woman what to do with her body and keep her in isolation against her will. On November 12, 2021, Britney Spears' conservatorship was officially terminated. Britney Spears was finally released from her father's custody, and control of her finances was temporarily transferred to a professional auditor as requested by Britney herself and her lawyer. The star called this day the happiest of her life. On that day, her boyfriend Sam Asghari shared a video of the couple dancing to one of Spears' songs, wearing t-shirts with the inscription #FreeBritney. It became obvious to the whole world that Britney had been used all these years simply as a money-making machine. International publicity helped the singer. Spears not only got rid of her father's conservatorship, but also got the opportunity to get married. On June 9th, 2022, Britney married Sam Asghari. He's such an inspiration, and I'm grateful. The timing of the end of the conservatorship was perfect for our relationship. We were able to establish a new life together without limitations and get married. Spears and Asghari tied the knot in an intimate ceremony in the backyard of their California home. The wedding was attended by a star-studded cast, including Madonna, Selena Gomez, Paris Hilton, Drew Barrymore, Donatella Versace, who designed Spears' wedding dress. Our wedding was a beautiful celebration of how much we'd been through together and how deeply we wished for each other's happiness, Britney said. The couple signed a prenup, according to which the singer's husband could not claim money earned before marriage. Britney's sons were not present at their mother's wedding. Jaden explained this as follows, quote, "At the time, it just wasn't a good time to go. I'm not saying that I'm not happy for her. I'm really happy for them, but she didn't invite the whole family. And then if it was just going to be me and Preston, I just don't see how that situation would have ended on good terms." Jaden also stressed that there is no hatred for Mom, but he admitted that their reconciliation, quote, "will take a lot of time and effort. I 100% think it can be fixed, of course. It's just going to take a lot of time and effort." Jaden said, quote, "I really want to see her again." Addressing Britney directly, he added, quote, "I love you so much. I hope for the best for you. Maybe one day we can sit down like this and talk again." Interestingly, Jaden spoke positively about his grandfather James. Quote, "My grandfather doesn't deserve all the hate he gets in the media. I love him with all my heart. He was just trying to be a father." After the interview, the singer posted on Instagram and responded to her son, quote, "I tried my best at being the best person I can be. My love for my children has no boundaries. It deeply saddens me to know his outcry of saying I wasn't up to his expectations of a mother. And maybe one day we can meet face to face and talk about this openly," she wrote. "Maybe, dear child, you can explain to me why our family would do that to anyone. I helped your father, who hasn't had a job in 15 years, she said. "I'm sure the standards of your dad smoking weed every day benefits your daily life at 15 and 16 to partake in a very cool generation. I completely understand your need to live with your father, as I had to play the perfect role for 15 years for absolutely nothing. As for my mental health, my dear child, understand you must learn to pick up a book and read one before you resort to even thinking about my intellect, sweetheart." The story of Britney Spears' conflict with her father was not over. In June 2022, Jamie sued his daughter, believing she had started a social media campaign to defame his name. However, everything calmed down immediately after that, and the singer moved on with her life. And before we move on to the last section and tell you where our star is now, check your subscription to our channel. And don't forget to like and ring the notification bell so you don't miss new videos. And let's continue. In 2023, Britney Spears' biographical confession entitled "The Woman in Me" finally saw the light of day. There, the singer spoke about the darkest moments of her life, in particular about her relationship with Justin Timberlake, abortion, resentment towards her father, and the sexualization of her stage image. She dedicated her memoir to her two sons, the love of her life, 18-year-old Sean Preston and 17-year-old Jaden James. Written with remarkable candor and humor, Spears' groundbreaking book illuminates the enduring power of music and love and the importance of a woman telling her own story on her own terms at last. The synopsis says, when asked if Spears will continue her singing career, Britney also gave an answer in her memoir. Unfortunately, she had some bad news for the superstar's fans. Pushing forward in my music career is not my focus at the moment. I'm not thinking about developing my musical career. It's time for me not to be someone who other people want. It's time to actually find myself. Britney Spears also opened up about her marriage to Sam Asghari in her book. However, the book was written before they announced their divorce. The 41-year-old singer and the 29-year-old fitness instructor split in August after just 14 months of marriage. Asghari filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. As a result, fans couldn't find any negative things about the star's now ex-husband or the reasons for the divorce. In the memoir, the singer shared details about their vacation together in Maui and Cancun when she was released from the conservatorship, and it was during the trip that they discovered she was pregnant. I'd wanted another baby for so many years, the star said. For a long time, Hassam and I had been eager to start our own family. I have an appreciation for how stable he is, Spears continued. I love that he doesn't drink. He's a gift from God. And to find out that he and I were about to have a child together made me feel giddy. However, in May 2022, the couple announced that Spears had suffered a miscarriage. They wrote on Instagram, quote, "It is with our deepest sadness we have to announce that we have lost our miracle baby early in the pregnancy. This is a devastating time for any parent. Our love for each other is our strength," the post continued. "We will continue trying to expand our beautiful family. We are grateful for all of your support. We kindly ask for privacy during this difficult moment." But 14 months after their wedding, Asghari decided to end their marriage. After 6 years of love and commitment to each other, my wife and I have decided to end our journey together. We'll hold on to the love and respect we have for each other, and I wish her the best always. Sam also added, "Shit happens. Asking for privacy seems ridiculous, so I'll just ask for everyone, including the media, to be kind and thoughtful." Asghari gave the date of their split as July 28th. A few months after Spears reportedly finished writing her memoir, insisting that he wanted to celebrate their time together. Asghari said, "I've always hated people leaving a certain relationship, and at some point they told each other they love each other and they sat at the same table and ate food together. So I never understood when people part ways and they talk badly about each other." Despite such statements, in his lawsuit, he demanded payments and attorney's fees from the stars. Insiders were not silent either, noting, quote, "Asghari is trying to negotiate concessions that go beyond the scope of the marriage contract and is threatening to publish extremely embarrassing information about Britney if he is not paid." In addition, insiders said the singer attacked her former lover, even with an axe. Unfortunately, when she was released from conservatorship, Sam got the most. When Britney started chasing him with an axe, it was the last straw. The incident occurred during another argument. Sam was unable to stop her, the source noted. However, the legal proceedings lasted for over a year and a half, and due to legal disputes, Spears and Asghari's divorce was finalized only on her birthday, December 2nd, 2024. Due to the prenup, Sam was left with practically nothing. Britney paid her ex-husband rent for a few months after he moved out, but that was it. And recently, Britney puzzled fans with a photo on Instagram where she appeared in a wedding dress with a veil and admitted that she married herself. "The day I married myself. Bringing it back because it might seem embarrassing or stupid, but I think it's the most brilliant thing I've ever done," she wrote in an Instagram post. Well, we want to wish the star to really find herself and her place under the sun. After all she's been through, she deserves it more than anyone else. Britney continues to be active on social media, and recently there was news that she was reunited with her sons, especially the youngest Jaden, after many years of estrangement. The boys are now living with their father Kevin and his new wife in Hawaii. We hope that the star will finally receive the desired peace and love of her family, which she's deserved all these years. And that's all for today. Click on the video that appeared on your screen, and we say goodbye to you for a short while. See you in the new videos on the Uncut Stories channel.